going to be talking about how you can achieve inner peace. Are you a person who feels like you've achieved inner peace? When it comes to this concept of inner peace, a lot of people have gone out to search for inner peace. They've tried to search for enlightenment. And some people have thought that maybe religion could bring them enlightenment. And so they've looked to Eastern religion for enlightenment and found Buddhist teachings that focus on the concepts of inner peace. But along the way, some have felt disillusioned, and they feel like these thoughts and concepts like make me one with everything. And it sounds more like you're ordering a hot dog, or change comes from within. That can be true, but that doesn't mean anything if you have to go and pay for that hot dog. The concept of searching for inner peace, although we can take it lightly, can be very serious for those who are struggling with their mental health or who come from trauma. And the reason why for some spirituality hasn't solved the issue of looking for inner peace is because for many, the search for inner peace is not a spiritual battle. It is a mental health battle. And so we're going to be approaching the subject of inner peace as to how you can feel that sense of inner peace on the inside, because those who are mentally strong and those who are mentally healthy always do have inner peace. So the other day I was riding my scooter, and actually this was just last night. I had a session that I had to make that was in the evening, a late session. So I had to be home at a certain time in order to do this session via Zoom. But I, in the early evening, was out riding my electric scooter around town. And this thing is high tech. It has Bluetooth, so it connects to your phone, and it plays your music on a Bluetooth speaker. And I really love riding my electric scooter, but it has some flaws to it. And it was raining yesterday, and some water seeped in to the computer board of the scooter. And so when I got ready to ride my scooter home, I said bye to my friends. Hey, I got to get home. I have this session. And I got on my scooter, and it wouldn't move. It would no longer. Now I've spent money on this, and I need it for one thing, and that's to take me from point A to point B. So now to be in a situation where this device is no longer doing for me what I need, really tested my emotional connection to this device. And even though on other times it has loyally gotten me where I needed it, and even though this thing costed money, I took that appointment on time. Now, why did I toss my scooter in the bushes? Well, I want to say again, I do love my scooter. It allows me to get around the city without having to worry about parking, be able to dart through traffic, and it gets me to the beach and to the park without the awkwardness of dealing with an automobile. But at that moment, that scooter wasn't doing for me what I needed it to do. So I needed to get home. And now if I try to carry this thing home or push it home, it's actually a dead weight. It would actually weigh me down. And I looked at the time, and I realized that if I tried to push this scooter home, I would not make my meeting on time. And the mental health of that person I was working with was more important than trying to hold on to this piece of equipment. So I threw it in the bushes. And I decided what I would do is come back later when I had time and retrieve the scooter, and then I could take it, charge it, give it the TLC. But at that moment, it wasn't serving me. Now, I'm sure some of your anxiety is shooting sky high, thinking of me putting this electronic device in the bushes somewhere in the middle of Chicago, and just knowing that it's going to be gone by the time I come back. But just to skip to the ending of the story, it was not gone when I went back the next day. Today, I rode back and I found the scooter, I took it home and I gave it the TLC that it needed, and it's working great. In fact, the computer board dried up, so I was able to ride the scooter itself home. And imagine how surprised the bums who were sitting on the street were to see me pull an electric scooter out of the bushes and get on it and ride it home. But I tell that story because the concept of something that was once so important and was once so expensive suddenly becoming obsolete and worthless is a concept that happens a lot in life. And when we deal with mental health and coming from trauma, it illustrates well how maladaptions work. You see, when you were raised in an environment with parents who you couldn't address dead on, you couldn't negotiate with, they were not reasonable, you could not show anger to parents that were ultimately harsh, it extinguished your ability to stand up for yourself. It extinguished your ego. It extinguished your narcissistic defense system. So now you don't have the ability to fight the battles, to do the negotiations. But what you adapt in that household is a fear-based mindset and the ability to please. So you become ultra agreeable, ultra nice, so that everything will go smooth and flow nicely in your house. You learn to avoid conflict. That's how you adapted in that household. So your mechanism of avoiding conflict is what you've chosen to use to survive the household. But now that mechanism doesn't work in the real world outside of that narcissistic situation that you were in growing up. So now you're trying to go through your life avoiding conflict, and being conflict averse does not lead you to finding peace. Being conflict averse leads you to having more conflict and living more in fear and not having inner peace at all. You're actually having inner turmoil. And this is ironic because the definition of peace, at least as most of us understand it, is the absence of war or conflict. But the true definition of peace doesn't necessarily come from the dictionary, although one definition has it halfway there where it says it's a state of security or calmness, but then it says due to the absence of war. But if you have inner peace, it wouldn't matter if you were actually in a war. When you have inner peace, it wouldn't matter what's actually happening around you. You still have that state of security and calmness. The very session that I went into with the brilliant person that I was working with, they made a statement during the session, and they said that in order to adapt in relationships, we have to be able to trust that we have the ability to handle any conflicts that will come up. And that way we're not trying to avoid conflicts. And that is a key to inner peace. Let me send that to you again. In order to have peace, you have to trust that you have the ability to handle any conflicts that will arise. And that will lead to inner peace. It's not necessarily the absence of conflict, because the absence of conflict doesn't exist in this world. This world that we live in is full of predators, bullies, and egopaths, those who you may call narcissists. So when you have these people that are looking to dominate, they want to rule, and if they can't rule you, they will ruin you. In that situation, you cannot have a total absence of conflict, even when they say, oh, hey, we're having peace in the world, but they've got guns pointed at each other. How is that peace? You're technically not in an immediate battle, but having guns pointed at each other, all the major nations right now, they've all got weapons pointed at one another. And they say, we're at peace right now. That's not true peace. So true peace can't be experienced in this world. A true absence of conflict, a true absence of war can't be experienced. So so you can get the next best thing. And that is the contentment, the state of security, the calmness that arises from the belief, from the understanding that you are capable of handling any conflicts that will come. Then you can have inner peace. You must believe that you are capable. So how do you achieve the ability of being capable? Well, you got to have skills, right? So you learn calm assertiveness by going to the video I put on YouTube that teaches you 10 keys to calm assertiveness. You learn the skill by taking the course and then practicing the skill. When you know how to be assertive and you understand that everything in life can be negotiated, now you've got the skills to show up and to have inner peace, because you can become equal to any conflict that may arise. Do you feel like you've got those skills? Well, I'd like to help you by sharing with you some secrets of those who have inner peace. And these secrets are what these people avoid. Because people who have inner peace, they spend some time avoiding something, but it's not avoiding conflict. People who have inner peace spend their time avoiding engaging with toxic people. People who have inner peace avoid engaging with toxic people. A toxic person is anyone that is a gossiper, a bully, a cheater, a liar. They have the toxic negative energy, and you don't want to be around that energy, because that energy will affect you. You will either absorb it, or that energy will create turmoil in your life. And so people who have inner peace know how to avoid engaging with toxic people. When they see or recognize that someone's toxic, they avoid that person, even when that person is their own family member. Even when that person is their own mother, their own father, they avoid engaging with toxic people. Mentally strong people don't waste their energy trying to change toxic people. Well, they probably have narcissistic personality disorder, and maybe I could do something to help them and to change them. No, mentally strong people don't waste energy trying to change toxic people. They establish healthy emotional and physical and thought boundaries. I'm not going to think like that. That crosses my thought boundaries. I'm not going to be around people who treat me that way. That crosses my boundaries. They establish strong boundaries. And that's how they create a peaceful bubble around them, which allows them to protect their inner peace, all the more so. Mentally strong people don't avoid conflict. Mentally strong people avoid excessive self-blame. Excessive self-blame is thinking that you are 100% at fault for everything that happens. So when someone else hurts you or does something wrong, you assume that's your fault. Or if there's a failed relationship, you feel that it's your fault. If there's an accident, it must be your fault. And you're always blaming yourself. You're seeing everything in the world around you as being your fault. And you're spending your time trying to prevent bad things from happening, because you're taking responsibility for everything that happens. But those who have inner peace avoid excessive self-blame. A mentally strong person will accept responsibility for what is truly their responsibility. But they'll recognize that they're not responsible for other people's choices, and they acknowledge that some factors in life are beyond their control. Probably the majority of factors in this world are beyond your control. So focus on what is your responsibility and avoid excessive self-blame. Those with true inner peace don't avoid conflict. Those with true inner peace avoid chasing happiness. They don't feel that they have to be happy at every single moment. They don't feel that they have to act happy at every single moment. Thinking you need to be happy all the time will actually backfire, because you will spend your time pursuing pleasure and pursuing joy, thinking that those are actual happiness, and those aren't actually happiness. Happiness stems from contentment. Contentment stems from gratitude. So when you have the attitude of gratitude, you're on the path to happiness. It's not something you chase. It is something you are because of the way that you exist and think. People who have true inner peace don't chase happiness. They put in the hard work that it takes to gain mental strength, clarity. They put in the work it takes to gain contentment and confidence. They don't chase instant gratification. That actually leads to unhappiness and a lot of disillusionment. People who have mental strength and true inner peace don't avoid conflict. They avoid comfort, or at least staying comfortable. They avoid complacency. You see, comfort is very deceiving. It can feel like you should actually pursue comfort, but too much comfort can actually kill. You sit down too much, and then you're not exercising. You eat all of the favorite foods, and your nutrition's going to go right into the trash. You shouldn't pursue comfort as your main pursuit. You must realize that staying comfortable, staying in your comfort zone is not the key to finding inner peace. It's the key to living fearful. It's the key to keeping you small. It's the key to keeping you from growing. Don't focus on staying comfortable. Don't try to avoid discomfort. That will backfire on you. Face your fears. Venture into the unknown. Test your limits. Know that being uncomfortable can be tolerable, and it is a prerequisite to achievement. Don't avoid discomfort. Avoid staying comfortable. Avoid complacency. Also, those with inner peace avoid victim mentality. Victim mentality is where you think everyone else is to blame for your issues and your problems and what's holding you back in life. Victim mentality is not productive. It does not help you. Victim mentality will actually hold you back. It will prevent you from being yourself because you're not taking responsibility for what you can do. You're not focusing your mind on what you control. You're focusing your mind on everything that has gone wrong in life. You're blaming sexism, racism, the abusers, the oppressors. Don't worry about them. Too much focus on them will put you into victim mentality. Do not worry about them. Don't worry about the oppressors and the abusers. Focus on your choices, even in the face of tragic circumstances. Focus on what you can control. Refuse to waste your time hosting a pity party or complaining. Those with inner peace, they don't avoid conflict. They avoid trying to impress people. Those with inner peace don't go around trying to make sure they're keeping up with the neighbors, having all the latest, wasting time trying to impress people to try to make them like you, depending on admiration from others. Depending on admiration from others gives them power over you, which keeps you more oppressed, which keeps you not having inner peace. So avoid trying to impress people. Avoid the pursuit of perfection. Those with inner peace avoid trying to be perfect or seem perfect. Striving for excellence is healthy. Don't get me wrong, but insisting on perfection is ill. It is mental illness because it's believing in something that's not true. It's an uphill battle. It's impossible to insist upon perfection. You'll never feel good enough. And even if you think you might have hit the mark for one moment, it immediately gets taken from you in the next because there's always something that's imperfect. Do not strive for perfection. Strive for excellence, not perfection. And don't always strive for excellence. Sometimes it's appropriate to not do your best. You'll drive yourself less crazy. Since you have to clean the kitchen every single day, maybe don't clean it all the way to the maximum standard of cleanliness every day, because it's too much when you have 3 kids and a husband and a dog. Just clean the necessary aspects. Okay, I got to get these dishes clean, got to have these countertops wiped off, and I got to sweep the floor. Cabinets are going to have to wait. It's okay to do things imperfectly. Learn the art of imperfection. Also, those who have inner peace avoid holding grudges. Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. In reality, clinging on to anger and hatred only reduces your life. It's scientific. Those who hold on to grudges don't live longer. They live shorter. They can't jump higher. They can't achieve their potential because they're too busy focused on what someone else did wrong. When you hold on to grudges or you're trying to seek revenge, a lot of times you're basically playing God. It's not your job to make sure that everything is just and right in the universe. It's impossible, because that's not your job. That's not what you were designed to do. You were designed to focus on you and fulfilling your potential and contributing something good and unique. When you focus on your contribution, then you can be self-actualized. Then you can have inner peace. Finally, those who pursue inner peace also avoid complete self-reliance. This is where you go to the other extreme. Instead of blaming and relying on everyone else, you don't rely on anyone ever, and you're like, no, I can't depend on anyone. I don't trust anyone, so I think I can do everything on my own. And you're acting tough, but acting tough is not being strong. There's going to be times when asking for help is important. Maybe one of those times is now, for you to ask for help, getting coaching or therapy to help you pull through the effects of complex trauma. Mentally strong people aren't afraid to admit when they could use some assistance. They don't mind relying on a higher power, relying on professional help, leaning on a friend in the time of need. They know they can gain strength from others, and that connection with others can be healthy. So recognize you don't have all the answers, and recognizing that you don't have all the answers can help you to have a renewed sense of inner peace. So when you look at those, I think there's about 9 points, 9 things that those who have inner peace avoid. How are you doing? You can sort of grade yourself. Are you on track? Are you avoiding the right things in order to gain inner peace? Those who are mentally strong have inner peace, but mental strength is solidarity. That means that everything is in union, in harmony within. How do you bring everything within into union and in harmony? How can you have inner peace? Well, often when we have inner conflict, it's because we have multiple parts of ourselves fighting against one another. So to have inner peace, solidarity, unity within, we need to organize the fighting parts. We know that we have multiple parts. When we talk about the mind, we know there's 2 parts to the mind: your conscious self and the subconscious self. In the brain, this is represented by the limbic system, that's your amygdala, and the cerebral cortex. And if you live in your cortex, which is the canopy of the brain, the larger part of the brain, you're able to regulate your emotion. You're able to control your emotion. But when you live in the emotional part of your brain, all logic goes out of the window. How do you want to live? Well, just like if there was a ship, it helps for there to be a captain. Inside you, in the mind, in the inner self, It helps for there to be a part of your mind or a part of your brain that is in charge, that is the boss. And that piece of yourself needs to be the leader of the self. And the leader of the self needs to be a good leader, not a tyrant, but a good leader. Which part of yourself should lead? The logical part or the emotional part? The conscious mind or the subconscious? What do you think? The reason why people continue to be affected by their trauma years afterwards is because the brain got switched into trauma mode, and the brain is now leading the self in the emotional mind. That is what leads to all of the maladaptions, because the amygdala is running on fear. And when you make all of your decisions in a fear state, you will have the maladaptions that lead to the personality disorder and a mental health crisis. You will have post-traumatic stress if you're constantly in the fear state. So now you have to avoid all relationships because you fear that those relationships are going to lead to you getting hurt. Or you have to be with someone because you fear that being alone is going to be the absolute worst part of your existence. So you cannot be alone because you're in a fear state, or you're in the middle where you're bouncing in between and you fear being alone. So you get with people and then you're with people and then you fear being with people because they're going to hurt you. So you get away from people. Your life doesn't make sense when you're in the fear state. That's why it becomes a disorder. You cannot have inner peace when you allow fear to dominate, when you allow fear to be the leader of the self. So if you answered conscious mind, if you answered the logical mind, you are correct. You need to be in the conscious logical self, because the conscious part of your mind is you. You are your consciousness. When you recognize that, it's like you wake up. You're like, oh, wow, I'm awake. You start observing. I'm a conscious being. Consciousness is power. It's synonymous with power, the power to make a choice. We're going deep here. Your consciousness is the power to make a choice, because scientists do not understand consciousness, by the way. Go ahead and Google it. You will find no answers on what consciousness is. I'm giving it to you right now. Your consciousness is you. You are the consciousness. It is your ability to make a decision for yourself. That is freedom. That is consciousness. You can observe everything. You can take in data and you can make a choice. That is only done in the cerebral cortex. That is the logical thinking mind. You must be a critical thinker at all times in order to make the decisions that pull you out of disorder, that pull you out of trauma, that pull you out of fear, and put you into the higher self. When you are the higher self, you are thinking logically, you are thinking critically, you are utilizing your personal power of free will, because your free will is your consciousness. That is what separates us from just being a rock or a plant. And our level of consciousness is what separates us from the animals, who are guided mainly by instincts and feelings. You're just living like an animal if you're in the animal brain, living in fear. We can do more than be in survival. Now it's time to step into revival and revive the conscious self. The largest part of your mind needs to be the part that leads you, and it takes some practice. But when you put that into practice and you become a logical thinker by slowing down everything, pausing before you make any decision, 7 seconds before you make a reply to anyone, now you're allowing the logical mind to come online, and that's going to be the leader of the self. And when the logical mind is the leader of the self, it's no longer in the fear state. And it's able to manage the complexity of decisions, because every decision that needs to be made is much more complex than, oh, right, wrong, good, bad. People are complex. Situations are complex. Your emotional brain, the animal brain, is not equipped to handle complex decisions. That is why you are made with free will and conscious thinking. So show up as the powerful being that you really are. Show up as the conscious self at all times. And you will live in the highest state of your personal reality, your best life. You will be actualized and you will feel inner peace because you will stop avoiding conflict. You will know that you're capable of handling the conflicts that are necessary to protect yourself and to have inner peace. If there's a bully in your life, a narcissist, an oppressor, you're in a relationship that's unequal, where you have to do everything for them, worry about their feelings, giving in to them is not the answer to inner peace. You're thinking you're going to gain peace by I'm just going to capitulate. I'm just going to do whatever they say. Okay, whatever they want. I don't want to have a fight. I don't want to tell them because that conflict, there's going to be conflict and then I'm not going to have peace. Wrong. You lose your inner peace. You're sacrificing your inner peace by capitulating to the demands of a terrorist. And that's what they are. Egopathic people are emotional terrorists. They hold peace for ransom. And they say, oh, you can't have peace. You can't have peace unless you give me what I want. But the truth is they can't control your inner peace. You can protect your inner peace by not changing for them, by not hiding the self for them. Set your boundary, express your boundary. Bam, it'll create a collision with the narcissist, which will expose who they are in your life. Your boundaries expose the narcissist. When they crash up against your boundary and it creates a big collision and you see them melt down, stay in your conscious mind, don't become emotional, just watch and observe. You'll see them melt down and do everything and try to kill your inner peace, but stay peaceful within yourself and just observe. And then you'll know exactly what you need to do. I'll give you a hint. Get out. You'll realize that you shouldn't have a bully in your life. You shouldn't have an egopathic, narcissistic terrorist who's psychopathic and doesn't care about your needs and wants and wants you to sacrifice your inner peace. You will realize you need to get out. But you need to create the conflict so that you can see how they crash up against your boundary, so that you realize what they truly are. Here's what happens, by the way, when you set a boundary, when you don't avoid conflict with a healthy person. Healthy person, here's my boundary. Healthy person says, oh, I'm sorry. I wouldn't want to cross your boundaries. Thank you for letting me know there is a boundary there. That's how a healthy person responds. Or they might enter into a negotiation with you. Okay, I see your boundary. I'm feeling like that kind of crosses one of my boundaries. Do you think there's something we can do to work this out? And you'll engage in conscious mind discussion. You'll be up here, they'll be up here, non-emotional. Yeah, because I care about you. I want to make sure that I'm taking care of you, but I want to make sure my needs are met too. And you'll say, hey, no problem. Yeah, I can actually do this. I can flex here. And then you guys will both compromise for one another. That is what will create outer peace. But you never sacrifice your inner peace for an egopath or a narcissist. They are not worth it. Create a boundary, let them crash against your boundary, and then get out. Just take the next exit. Protect your inner peace.